designer, as an artist, architect, designer, a lot of the work that I do is also like mathematically driven. And what I mean by that is that it's either designed through a series of equations, or it's designed by data that inform those equations and therefore define the form. This case specifically, it's a sculpture. This case, which they look kind of similar, but this is the structure for a museum. These are, again, like other fashion elements. So it doesn't really matter what the scale is. It doesn't matter what the function is. At the end, it's the elements of design, right? How do we design spaces? How do we design elements? And how do these pieces combine to make something new, whether it's something that is static, or it's dynamic, or it's something that's like evolving or generative, etc. So when we talk about architecture, and I think that the most relevant or prevalent thing that I want to be speaking here in terms of the metaverse is how does the design of architectural form end up affecting the way that people behave inside of it? And what I mean with behave is that the way that people move inside of a space really is determined by the shape of the architectural building. And whether this is something that we're fully aware of or not, it does happen. The way that you sit in a theater, the way that you walk through a museum, the way that you look at books in a library. These are all things that are by design by the architectural building. And these are what we would call typologies. It's just what do each of these different forms or categories of buildings look like? Office buildings tend to look similar to each other, museums tend to look similar to each other, etc., right? So why is this, right? And it has to do with the programming and how we want people to be acting inside. So the moment that we give form, or in a way be able to like transform this into something different, it really changes the way that people interact with the content or the program inside of it. And therefore it also changes the way that people form, communicate, and therefore build a community inside of there as well. So I'm going to start with a project, Google headquarters, which was with Bjarke Ingels Group. And here, what was really interesting for us was thinking about how we're changing the shape of the office. Like, what does it mean to design an office for the 21st century, right? Where it's not just about doing like independent work, but it has a big component about a community aspect of seeing other people's shared work environments. So we go through like looking at the again, like the typologies, the form of how the office has evolved through time, from the Renaissance office to Taylorism to then Action Office, which led into the Cube Farm, and then Work and Play, which is what we would most likely relate to the movement of shared workspaces, for example, WeWork, right? And then from this element of being able to mix work and play and having an environment that is more flexible for the user, for the workspace, we see new buildings, for example, the Apple Park by Foster, which really like enhance this new form of behavior. And with Google, the idea here is that we really want to focus on what does it mean to have a community office? Like, what does it mean to have 7,000 people under one single roof that are spending like their day working, but also playing, also eating. There's different elements of different, I guess, like different programming, whether it's through entertainment or cultural, etc. But it's really about building a community that is working under the same ethos or for the same purpose. So when we thought about this design, the idea is like what is this canopy that can encapsulate everything that's inside of it, right? So if we can have a huge canopy that encapsulates an entire space for 7,000 people working inside, then how do we design it in a way that allows for everything else to be functional inside of it? So how are the acoustics going to be functional? How is the daylighting? When I mean daylighting, the natural daylighting that's going to pierce through the structure going to be functional? And essentially, like, how do we make sure that an environment like this ends up being or fulfilling the purpose that it was designed for? So this is where parametric design or computational design fits in the sense that it's no longer about just like designing a unique piece, but really understanding what are the parameters, what is the data that's going to be informing the shape of this building. In this case, the Google headquarters is a static building. It's not opening up or changing itself throughout the day or based on interaction. It's a static building, but even so, the way that designed, it's parametric. And I think that what's really relevant here to think is that the way that this is being designed, if it were to be in the metaverse, it's something that the data, because it's changing day by day, right? The data is changing day by day. It's changing also based on how the people are acting and behaving inside, as I mentioned. Then how could the building also be transforming, right? In the metaverse, in virtual spaces, things don't have to be static. Things don't have to be consistently the same. So it's a beautiful overlap of like, what are the aspects that could be the same, as we would call a digital double, between the physical and the virtual relationship of a building or a design, or like whether that design is from, you know, architecture to fashion or anything else that can go inside of the metaverse. But what's really interesting is to question that. What parts need to be the same? What parts could potentially be different? So these are renders of how it looked inside. And then this is the process of construction. It's been under construction for the past like 3-4 years now. It's very near completion. So yeah, this is Google.